What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Two massive whirlpools of energy collided on the battlefield. In the end, it was Beethip who fell.
Vortex crash.
Gabil's powerful move struck through Beethip.
Incredible!
Gabil-sama, you're amazing.
Truly remarkable.
The three onlookers couldn't help but cheer and praise him. Gabil's attack had been so dominant that it made their previous struggles seem almost pointless. Beethip hadn't been careless, and yet, this was how it ended. The key was the vortex spear. Gabil had been so focused on confessing to Sophia that he hadn't noticed the vortex spear had evolved into a mythical grade weapon during the critical moment. And naturally, Gabil was at the center of it all. As a result, Gabil's existence value had surpassed Beethop's. Since they were nearly equal in skill, this gave Gabil the upper hand to win.
Let's go, Gabil! Let's go, Gabil! Let's go!
Gabil reveled in the victory chant, spurred on by his companions. Sophia smiled as she watched, but then she suddenly remembered the promise she'd made, and her cheeks reddened. Gabil, noticing her reaction, blushed as well, and they both froze, looking at each other.
It feels like we are intruding.
Indeed.
Good luck, Gabil-sama.
With that, the trio made a quick exit. Gabil and Sophia were left alone, and despite the awkwardness, they were surprisingly well matched. Thanks to the battlefield's intense emotions, it didn't take them long to be honest with each other. And so, spring finally arrived for Gabil. The death of Insect General Tishorn marked a turning point on the battlefield, affecting not just Gabil's group. Carrion, Midley, and Obera had been observing the situation, worried that this shift in power could disrupt the balance of the ongoing conflict. At that crucial moment, they each made a decisive choice. Carrion was the first to act.
Hey, Frey pulled off a victory. Well, there's no way I can afford to lose now.
He smirked, focusing his gaze on Abart. Abart, with his numerous limbs, excelled in both close and magical combat. His elongated, slender arms, reinforced with an exoskeleton made of highly advanced alienium, could pierce opponents like the sharpest spear. But that wasn't all, he could also cast spells by forming intricate hand signs, without needing to recite any incantations. At first glance, this blend of magic and unique physical skills seemed to put Carrion at a disadvantage. However, the reality was different. Carrion was simply biding his time, waiting for the right moment. He was strategizing on how to conserve his energy, especially his signature move, Beast Roar, to defeat Abart with minimal effort. As the battle unfolded, Carrion quickly realized he held the upper hand. But that didn't make him complacent. Abart's power was real, and a single mistake could cost Carrion the fight. Plus, he had a nagging sense that things could get dangerous if he rushed. And indeed, his caution was warranted. Abart was the type to enter a berserk state when his stamina ran low, tripling his attack and recovery power. If that had happened, Carrion would have faced serious trouble, potentially even losing. But thanks to his sharp instincts, Carrion managed to keep the battle under control, recognizing Abart's patterns. Carrion had figured out the timing, how long it took for Abart's magic to recharge and how long it took for his spear to retract after being fully extended. He waited for the moment when Abart would attempt to use both at once. That moment came when Abart grew impatient after hearing about Frey's victory over Tishorn.
I've been waiting for this. Beast Roar.
Carrion's attack struck Abart directly. The blast of magical energy expanded, completely enveloping Abart. Meanwhile, Midley observed the battlefield with a calm demeanor. The Insect General Sarill, standing before him, was of little concern. Midley had complete mastery over his body, always exerting just the right amount of power. Sometimes, he even matched his opponent's level, savoring the fight in its purest form. In this way, Midley was much like Diablo. This time, Midley had done the same with Sarill.
You're too naive. You seem pretty confident in your poison, but it's useless against me. If relying on your venomous tail doesn't work, what will you do?
He mocked, trying to provoke Sarill.
Damn it! You're so arrogant.
Sarill's anger flared at Midley's taunt. But the extra power his rage gave him was pointless if he couldn't land a hit. With his movements becoming predictable, Sarill was now completely at Midley's mercy. Although it would have been simple to finish him off, Midley held back, sensing an unsettling atmosphere hanging over the battlefield.
What is this persistent unease I'm feeling? Seems like someone's testing my strength. They've lost interest. That means they think they can take me out whenever they want.
This presence reminded Midley of Milam, whom he revered, but it lacked the warmth Milam had. It was cold, devoid of any emotion, a truly eerie presence. Midley had deliberately kept Sarill alive to uncover the source of this unsettling feeling.
As expected of Obera Dono, she's picked up on this presence too, just like I have.
Obera was also scanning the battlefield without defeating the insect general she was up against. Given the vast difference in power, she could have easily won, but it seemed she had the same goal as Midley, to identify this ominous presence. The others, however, didn't seem to notice it. Carrera, who was locked in a fierce battle with the enemy General Zess, was too engrossed in the fight to pay attention to anything else. It was clear she had no time for other concerns. The same was true for Geld. He was up against an insect general resembling a giant humanoid centipede who was nearly on par with Peliad. Their battle was so evenly matched that Geld couldn't afford any distractions, and Midley didn't want to burden him with additional worries. As for Gobta and Ranga, who were up against Peliad, they were too focused on the formidable enemy before them to notice anything else. However, Midley was genuinely grateful that this duo had joined the fight. He had been considering rescuing Phobio and Esprit, thinking they wouldn't survive otherwise, but the unsettling presence in the battlefield held him back. Midley even thought of repaying Gobta by offering to help with his training later, although Gobta might see it as unnecessary. After a prolonged stalemate, the situation finally shifted. With Frey defeating Insect General Tauren, Gabil taking down Beethip, and Carrion eliminating Abart, the battlefield dynamics changed. Midley felt that the ominous presence he had sensed was growing stronger and more menacing. Something bad was happening, though he couldn't quite identify what it was. He was certain of this and prepared himself for whatever was coming. His comrades, Carrion and Frey, seemed to have finally sensed the eerie presence after defeating the insect generals they were fighting. It appeared they had been subconsciously aware of it all along but were now fully alert to it. Those two still have some room for growth. Their fighting skills have improved, but they won't be able to keep up with Milam-sama unless they start paying more attention to their surroundings. This was a rather tough assessment, but it reflected Midley's honest opinion.
How dare you ignore me? Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Sarill, enraged by Midley's apparent indifference, went into a frenzy. He plunged his poisonous tail into his own body, triggering overdrive by his own will. With Sarill's strength and speed now multiplied, even Midley realized he could no longer afford to play around. Sensing a foreboding presence, he decided it was time to end the fight. When Midley got serious, his power was overwhelming. He unleashed a powerful fighting aura, stopping the charging Sarill in his tracks. He then delivered the final blow, turning Sarill's body to dust. It was an instant kill, a display of power that highlighted his status as a worthy companion of Milam. However, despite this impressive victory, Midley's expression remained grim.
This doesn't feel right. Just as I thought, these chills are only getting worse.
Midley muttered to himself as he looked up at the sky, which had grown dark without him noticing. The shivers running down his spine were a warning that killing Sarill might have been a mistake. As Midley suspected, Obera also sensed a growing sense of unease.
This doesn't make sense. The pressure from the enemy hasn't changed since the war started.
Obera was handling Tishorn, who could slice through anything by vibrating the alienium exoskeletons on both of her arms, with ease. However, she refrained from finishing off Tishorn because she shared the same concerns as Midley. The battlefield had already seen many lives lost. Thanks to the use of restorative medicines, the damage to her allies was minimized, and the injured were quickly replaced, preventing casualties. However, the Insectar army continued their relentless assault without regard for their own losses, and they had already been reduced to less than half of their original strength. Despite this, the enemy's strength, as Obera sensed with her heightened intuition, remained completely intact and undiminished. The moment Frey defeated Tauren was the moment Obera's vague discomfort became certainty. Even though one of the enemy generals had been taken down, nothing changed. This suggested that even the death of an insect general had no impact on the Insectar army, or, worse, it could be part of the enemy's strategy.
No, it can't be. But still.
She couldn't entirely dismiss the possibility. A colleague, Zalerio, had once complained to her about them.
They're annoyingly persistent.
He had said.
Even when you beat them, they can still cause problems, so you have to choose the right time.
At the time, she had dismissed his words, thinking Zalerio was just unusually tired. But now, she realized the true significance of his comment. Back then, she had already decided it wasn't her job to deal with the Insectors, so she hadn't consulted with him or listened closely. This wasn't just Obera's problem, it was a common flaw among the Phantoms led by Feldway. Still, she regretted not sharing crucial information among themselves. But now, it was too late for that. With little knowledge of the enemy's tactics, she had no choice but to adapt and find the best response to the situation. With this in mind, Obera continued observing the battlefield while keeping Tishorn at bay. Then, the battle shifted rapidly without any decisive action. Tauren, Beethop, and Abart were all taken down in quick succession. Yet, despite the fall of so many enemy generals, the enemy's strength remained undiminished. The result left no room for doubt. This was all part of the enemy's plan.
This is dangerous. We shouldn't take down any more insect generals.
Though they were enemies that needed to be defeated, caution was now the priority. If something unexpected was happening, they had to address it without rushing in. Obera tried to issue a warning, but it was too late. By then, even Midley had already dealt with Sarill. There were only 4 insect generals left. Tishorn, who was locked in battle with Obera, Mujika, who was being held at bay by Geld, Peliod, who Gopta and Ranga were struggling to handle, and finally Zes, who was engaged in a high-stakes duel with Carrera in a different dimension of combat. Half of the insect generals had already been defeated. Obera's usually calm expression darkened briefly, as if sensing an impending threat. Tishorn noticed this change and grinned.
Oh, so you have figured it out. In the end, we insect generals are just the prelude. With His Grace's immense power, my presence or absence won't change the grand scheme.
Tishorn was a top-tier insect general, ranked 4th in power. Her existence value was just over 1.8 million, not far off from Beethop's. Her long-standing position among the insect generals was a testament to her strength.
Dimensional slash.
Shockwaves emitted from Tishorn's arms, extending as slicing edges that shredded everything in their path. The effect of the slash even reached into the dimensional realm, and although the dimensional slash was quickly healed by the world's restorative power, anything on the surface that was hit by it couldn't withstand the force. Even Obera wasn't exempt from this.
A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Havox, Speed Saber, Curtis Loban, Judah Herrera, Just a Guy, Miss L.W. Hernandez, Jason Martin, Zach Rosen, Jerry Sladek, Ray Perez, Jay, Donald Williams, Moab A, Day of Light, John M, Godman Gaming, Markithian Tidwell, Adrian, Kumo, Sanketh Chelu, T. Bush, JV, Thomas, Christ, Joshua Cousins, Jose Hernandez, Khaled, Christian Deshazer, Divine C. Harris, Montyboy98, Ruben, Yuki Iki, Gray, Kemal Ebanks, Isaac, Koala King 93, Quilly Buckner, Alver, Normal Defate, Vicente Baharias, Joshua Andrade, L, Gary Miles, Dragon Spawn 666, J. Rule, Leiron Sangkap, Lucas Guet, Jason Martin, Ekotski, Sky T, Diego Ginoza, Andre Hamilton, Martin Ramos, Guy Ensley, Simon Rode, Emperor WSA, Miko Espinosa, George Hage, Pratik Bandari, Jackson Early, Smexy, Carl Stephen Bernadel, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Vastolord, Marl Barsha, Ralph Ignacio, Efrain Hernandez, William Locke, Kamal Luke, Spencer Candila, Ian Sikibiol, Thanacorn Lee Sawat, KACP9R, The Harv, Drayden Yamauchi, Alex Buthan, Nathaniel Johnson, Michael Brinkley, Elijah Pierre, Michael Stern. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.